If you're about to make out, hold on for a second and listen to me. Before you start, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Here you will learn what no one else tells you. Maybe this will be the last time you have to fight this fight. Because what no one told you, and perhaps doesn't even want you to find out, is that this seemingly harmless habit is robbing you of something that even money can't buy, your life force. No, this is not coach talk, nor moralistic speech. It's science, it's energy, it's real life. And yes, there is a way out. And no, it's not suffering in silence in the bathroom at 2 in the morning. Have you ever wondered why after masturbating you feel strange? Empty. Like you made a deal with something that makes you weak. This is no coincidence. There's a hidden cycle behind instant pleasure, and it's designed to keep you on autopilot. Distracting you from your dreams, taking you away from your discipline, silently eroding your self-confidence. And you know what else? This is all reversible. But only for those who have the courage to see the truth without a filter. The truth is that pornography and chronic masturbation give you emotional crumbs while robbing you of the feast of fulfillment. And if you think that's an exaggeration, then why haven't you ever really felt full afterward? It's not the pleasure that's holding you back. It's the price it takes later. In this video, you will understand why semen retention can be the greatest hidden asset to unlock your power, your focus, your presence. And this is not theory. It is practice, it is transformation, it is liberation. Now the choice is yours. Continue in this cycle of cheap dopamine, or open your eyes to a new mindset that goes far beyond what you were taught about sex, pleasure, and self-care. The question is, are you ready to get out of the invisible prison where so many men live without even realizing it? Because what you're going to hear now, no one has ever told you, and it might be exactly what you needed to hear today. Liam, he was like any ordinary young person, except that he had fallen into a cycle that many pretend doesn't exist. Pornography seemed harmless at first, an outlet, a distraction. But, over time, it became routine. He told himself that it was just today, that tomorrow he would stop. But tomorrow arrived and, with it, relapse. It was an addiction disguised as a hobby, and he found himself increasingly trapped, ashamed, not knowing where to start getting out. The self-sabotage came subtle, like a whisper. He made perfect excuses. It's the internet's fault. I'm a man, it's normal. Everyone does this. The problem is that as he repeated these phrases, his vital energy drained away. Constant practice drained his motivation, his mental clarity, and, most importantly, his confidence. When a man doesn't practice semen retention, he doesn't realize how much of his inner strength he's wasting, until it starts to be lacking in the moments he needs it most. And here comes the looping. A cycle where he feels bad, promises to change, relapses, feels worse, promises again, and relapses. It's like trying to get out of a well by digging deeper. And the mind, when poorly trained, loves this game of repetition. It's almost as if he wants to convince you that that's all you are. But it's a lie. The big trick is to notice this pattern before it becomes part of your identity. Pornography shapes not only habits, but the way men see themselves. Of course, it's not easy to break this cycle. We are talking about something that affects the dopamine system, immediate pleasure, and the illusory feeling of control. But what few say is that you can start small. Write down the days that expired. Look for activities that take you off autopilot. Swap your cell phone for a book at night, for example. A good start. The miracle morning, to discipline the first minutes of the day. It seems little, but this is how addiction begins to lose strength, with awareness and daily micro-victories. This is just the beginning of the story of Liam, and many others. What follows shows that behind the constant masturbation there is a fertile ground for heavy and silent emotions, which are hidden between four walls and an unlocked cell phone. The night sessions Liam started to have another flavor. It was no longer pleasure. It was escape. He would turn off the light, lie down, take out his cell phone, and repeat the ritual. But, in the end, the feeling was empty. He wasn't filling a void, he was feeding it. That moment that should have been one of relief was accompanied by silence and self-contempt. The bed, once comfortable, became a tomb where he laid his own dignity. Soon after, he looked at the ceiling, with dry eyes and wet soul. I felt ashamed. Not the porn itself, but who he was becoming. He started comparing himself to others. Everyone is moving forward, and here I am, stuck in this. And when shame sets in, She loves to bring company. Self-judgment, pessimism, anger. And at this time, it's easy to look for someone to blame. He blamed genetics, education, social media, and, most importantly, women, as if the problem was external, not internal. This is where many get lost. Loneliness is not just physical, it is emotional. And shame, if not confronted, becomes identity. Liam began to think that he era that one. That there was no way. But, you see, shame is not an end, it's a warning. It's the soul screaming, "Hey, we can do more." But to hear this, you need to silence the voice of judgment and turn on the light of conscience. Practicing semen retention may seem simple, but it is the first step towards regaining respect for yourself. If you are a man looking for more energy, focus, and self-control, I have prepared a powerful ebook that will show you how semen retention can transform your life. Link in the first pinned comment. Do you know what helped Liam to get out of this spiral? To write. Putting on paper, without filter, what you felt. It sounds cliché, but when he started writing as if he was venting to a friend, something changed. He saw patterns. He realized that the worst days came after sleeping poorly, eating junk food, or spending too much time on his cell phone. And this is where small changes create big changes. Creating an emotional diary, for example, can be a powerful ally on this journey. Little by little, Liam realized that he didn't need to be his enemy. That solitude could be a space for construction and not for destruction. But before that, he needed to channel his anger into something more productive. And that's when the spark of transformation emerges. It was on an ordinary day, one of those days that all seemed the same, that Liam looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. The tired look, the slumped posture, and that energy of someone who wakes up defeated. But there, in the silence of that bathroom, anger was born. Not against others, but against yourself. A silent revolt. He got tired of being his own saboteur. And curious as life is, it was this anger that took him to the gym the next day, not for health, but for revenge. Against procrastination, against the cycle, against what he was becoming. In the beginning, it was all fueled by hate. Each rep on the bar was an unspoken scream. Every drop of sweat, a guilt being squeezed out. But believe me, even anger, when channeled well, can save a life. Over time, that dense energy began to transform. He started training no longer to escape, but to conquer. The gym became a temple. Pain became a teacher. And the semen retention started to make more sense, because he finally felt like he was watching something, and not just wasting it. Real change begins when you move, even in fear, even in shame. Liam didn't become an athlete, nor did he post before and afters on Instagram. But he created routine, and routine is what builds the new me. I woke up early, trained, ate right, drank more water. And do you know the most interesting thing? This discipline began to invade other areas of his life. He read more, procrastinated less, slept better. Small victories that, as a whole, began to make noise within him. For those just starting out, the secret is simple. Start with the body. Moving your body is the most direct way to change your mental state. Want a practical example? Do 30 push-ups every time you feel like relapsing. Does it seem silly? Test for a week. Liam did this, and that was how he began to understand the power of ACT. Because when the mind lies, the body speaks. And when the body changes, the mind listens. This new energy ignited inside him didn't solve everything, but it showed that there was a way. And that, as difficult as it was, he was no longer going around in circles. But the most challenging thing was yet to come, recognizing that the most dangerous enemy is the one that inhabits our habits. Even with the new routine, Liam discovered something frustrating. Change is harder than he thought. In the first few days, it seemed like everything was coming together. Training up to date, good nutrition, firm semen retention. But all it took was a bad night's sleep, a silly argument, or a moment of boredom for him to slip up again. The relapse came sneakily, almost as if saying, just this once. And after it fell, there was the old feeling of, it was all in vain. It was as if he was throwing away everything he had built. The human mind is a minefield of automatic habits. Liam began to realize that his triggers were scattered everywhere. The cell phone in bed, the random browsing on Instagram, the short videos that activated the impulse. And the brain, already addicted, knew how to convince him. He began to understand that the real enemy was not desire, but unconscious repetition. The lack of presence. Those moments when he acted without thinking, he just reacted. It was then that he began to develop a more strategic outlook. Instead of blaming himself, he started mapping. I took paper and wrote down, time of relapse, what I felt, where I was. He began to see patterns. He discovered, for example, that most of his relapses occurred when he was alone at home at night and his mind was idle. Recognizing these moments was a turning point. And when he applied semen retention more carefully, he noticed a direct increase in his energy and clarity. The key, then, was not to never make mistakes, but to learn quickly from mistakes. He began to view each relapse as a laboratory. Instead of giving in to guilt, he extracted data. And it was with this mentality that he began to win. He created small emergency routines, evening walks, cold showers, quick reading, short books, like The Ego is Your Enemy or The Power of Now, which helped pull your mind back to the present. That was what made the difference. Active awareness and practical strategy. Little by little, Liam understood that change is not a straight line. It's a spiral. You climb, you slide, you learn, you get up better. And each cycle brings new strength, as long as you are willing to observe yourself with courage. It was in this spiral that he found the thread of true turning point. But only when he made a seemingly simple and highly symbolic decision. Liam's big change didn't start with a scream, but with a simple gesture. He decided to no longer take his cell phone into the bathroom. It seems little, right? But that was exactly what turned the key. It was there, in that small room, where many of his relapses took place. By cutting this link, he broke the strongest cycle that fueled addiction. For the first time, he began to take control of his impulses, not with brute force, but with strategy. What I'm explaining here is much more detailed in my ebook, The Power of Semen Retention. There is a simple step-by-step guide for you to apply in your everyday life. It's really worth it. The second change was to exchange idle time for hobbies that stimulate the mind. Liam rediscovered the pleasure of playing the guitar, doing crosswords, studying ancient history. Every time I immersed myself in a new activity, my mind became less vulnerable to temptation. Semen retention has become a natural consequence of the new lifestyle. He wasn't just resisting, he was filling up. The accumulated energy found new channels, and that made all the difference. In parallel, he realized that he needed to take care of his physical energy. He started taking cold showers in the morning, practicing deep breathing throughout the day and exposing himself to the sun whenever possible. These simple but powerful practices amplified his vitality. He began to feel more alert, more present, more alive. And with that, masturbation lost its false shine. It no longer made sense to waste energy when he felt it pulsing with so much potential within him. It was at this stage that the first signs of true transformation emerged: extreme focus on tasks, firmer gaze, erect posture, less anxiety. Even in social life, he noticed changes. People started listening to him more attentively. And women? Well, he began to realize that he no longer needed to look for them with desperation. Semen retention was refining his masculine energy, making him magnetic, without having to force anything. But the most curious thing is that the more he evolved, the more he understood that true change does not come from outside. It's not about prohibiting yourself, it's about turn. And to do that, he would need to take on something that many avoid their entire lives: total responsibility for himself. And that, my friend, is the next step. There comes a point where you can no longer hide behind excuses. Liam faced the mirror and understood: either he would take control of his own life, or he would remain a spectator of his own decline. Taking personal responsibility is like taking the wheels off an emotional bicycle. It hurts at first, it's scary, but it's liberating. He stopped blaming the algorithm, boredom, creation, society. And it didn't make him weaker. It made him an adult. It's funny how comfortable the victim mentality is. She exempts. She says, "You are like this because of the world." But when Liam understood that he was wasting his best years by blaming external factors, something woke up. He saw that the practice of semen retention was not just a physical challenge, but a rite of passage. An internal vote that he would be responsible for every choice, every impulse, every outcome. That's strength. This is freedom. Personal responsibility also involves what you consume: content, food, thoughts. Liam traded inane videos for documentaries, fast food for real food, gossip for silence. He understood that everything that enters your mind or body shapes who you are. One of the videos that impacted him the most at this stage was a TED Talk about self-discipline, and he started to review it whenever he felt weak. He began to realize that discipline was not prison. It was structure. It was the path to freedom. And do you know the most curious thing? When you take 100% responsibility for your life, even defeats become lighter. Because you stop dramatizing and start learning. Did Liam fall a few times? Of course. But instead of saying, "I don't have willpower," he would say, "What can I improve?" This simple adjustment took him from reactive to proactive. And each conscious decision reinforced his identity as someone in charge. With this new worldview, he began to understand that the difference between those who win and those who live trapped in cycles is not that visible. It's not luck. It's not talent. It is something invisible but powerful, something that begins where everything is formed, in thought. To outsiders, perhaps no one would notice. But inside, Liam was different. He had understood a powerful principle. No matter how much strength you have, if your mindset is out of alignment, everything falls apart. And we're not talking about cheap positive thinking, but a kind of awareness that shapes every choice. He stopped saying, "I am like this," and started thinking, I am like this, but I can change." Semen retention is no longer just an effort. It has become a symbol of a new way of thinking. What separated Liam, who always fell, from Liam, who started winning, was one thing: mentality. It wasn't genetics, it wasn't a lack of money, or bad luck. It was the belief system operating behind the scenes. Before, he saw the impulse as stronger than him. Later, he began to see the impulse as an alarm that something inside him needed attention. This changes everything. The mind trained to react becomes the mind that chooses. And whoever chooses, controls the game. Don't leave it for later. Click on the first pinned comment, purchase the ebook, and start changing your energy, your mind, and your life today. To strengthen this new mentality, he fed his mind with wisdom. He read Quem Pensa Enriquez, listened to podcasts like Jordan Peterson's, wrote down learnings in his notebook as if he were creating his own life manual. And it worked. Because the mind, when constantly stimulated with direction, responds. If before he was a slave to momentary pleasure, now he was a servant of a purpose. This gave meaning to the fight, and meaning is fuel that doesn't dry easily. One of the most transformative habits of this phase was internal dialogue. Liam started talking to himself. Literally. When he felt the urge, he said, "What are you trying to escape from now?" And, amazingly, sometimes the answer came. From the void. From fear. From the charge. These internal conversations have replaced autopilot with presence. And presence is what transforms an ordinary man into a man who builds his destiny with intention. Now Liam not only understood, but felt that semen retention was more than holding back an urge. It was an act of personal leadership. A silent declaration: I command my body, my mind, and my energy. And when this becomes part of your essence, something even changes in the way you look at the world, and the world starts to look at you differently too. Now that you understand all this, the question that remains is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to close this video and continue as it was? Or are you going to use this truth as a trigger for real change? Because, my friend, knowing doesn't change anything. It's what he does with what you know that defines where you will end up. How many times have you promised to change and fallen back into the same cycle? And how many of those times was it because you didn't have a plan, a purpose, or worse, you had no idea what you were missing? It's time to stop living half-heartedly. To recover your energy, your personal dominance, your masculine presence. Semen retention isn't just about holding in, it's about transforming. And transformation requires action. So tell me, are you going to continue to be controlled by impulses, or are you going to take control of your own life? Are you going to let random videos decide who you are? Or are you going to decide what kind of man you want to be from now on? Because the truth is simple, the majority will continue on automatic. But a few, those who really listen, will use this knowledge to build a version of themselves that they never imagined possible. If you felt this calling, then you already know what you need to do. Starts today. Leave here in the comments what touched you most about this video. I want to know your story. I want to know if you are on this journey too. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click the button below, activate the bell, and get ready. Because this channel is for those who want to go deep, for those who want to truly transform themselves.